Got there, Mr. Murray.
Not just some old stuff here.
All right, good. So it's 6 o'clock and
Yes, sir. 4 o'clock.
did you get the one of the agendas that were on the table?
I did not.
I have it then.
Oh, I couldn't, Marcus, I'm sorry.
Hey, Marcus.
Yes.
I want to ask you a question. What is RISE?
I have one. Thank you. What was that?
What is RISE?
RISE is an incubator.
Thank you. Thanks.
Business advisory initiative that's housed in ADEC, and they are partnering with Embed to do the scholarship. So what it is that if a prospective aspiring business owner comes up and says, hey, I want to participate in this, we connect them with RISE and they help them with their business plan.
Hey, I'm in this meeting. What's up?
Okay, I'm just on my way home. I just want to let you know I'm turning off the dish right now.
Tell Tracy I said thank you for the information.
Murphy said, thank you for the information.
Okay.
Bye. All right. Pledge of allegiance first, and then call us to order. Are you quorum counting?
Yes. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, last time. Okay, let's look at we need the approval of the minutes from last meeting. Do you,
Well, I can go ahead and do
do you
the
have
roll
a
call
reading?
for us real quick. So we have
Put my glasses on, I can't see.
Taylor.
Here.
We have Daryl Murphy.
Present.
We have Anthony Harris.
Present.
We have Greg Peugeot.
Present.
Alexandra Esposito is absent. And Kirsten.
Here.
All right, so we are all here. And first item on the agenda is approval of minutes, and you had a question about that, sir?
Yeah, there was nothing major, like, because we weren't really discussing anything.
Okay. So we
And
can give a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve?
Second.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Motion has been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes approved. Right. Now we got the nomination and election of officers. I want to let you know this time, this is my last meeting as chair. I'm not running again. I've got too many medical issues and things going on. And really, since the last meeting, I haven't had a chance to really dig into some things that I wanted to because I've been in and out of the hospital. So that being said, do we have a nomination for chair?
I would nominate Mr. Daryl Murphy, if he would accept.
I second the nomination. Opposed? Motion has been moved and seconded. All those in favor of Daryl Murphy as the incoming chair signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Congratulations, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you. I believe it's in order. Okay. Thank you very much for the vote of confidence.
And now for vice chair. Are there any nominations for vice chair?
Taylor. I nominate Taylor, Vice Chair.
I second. Motion has been moved and seconded. All those in favor of Taylor Suppen as vice chair signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Taylor Sutphen, you have been elected vice chair. We don't have any more officers, do we?
Yep, that would be it. Yep, that's the officers.
Okay, now, put my glasses back on. This DEI strategic plan update.
Yes, yes. All right, so I know we came to you all with an update that we did when we were done, and I wanted to try to give you an update of where we are currently with our action plan. And so right now you have before you just a Gantt chart. As we had the 4 pillars were culture, career, community, and consistency. And in this, we have all of our initiatives, all those points that were kind of laid out on the big spreadsheet, kind of tracking where we are with these ones. And so these are, the periods are months. So it started in June as we're going into June of 22, and we go farther back. If you back out, you can see we go 18 months with the plan total. And we have made some progress in terms of getting things in this first initiative, embedding the mission, vision, and values and into all major strategic initiatives, policy documents, and organizational framework. So we're in the middle of a website redesign, which will be putting some of our mission, vision, and values and information about the program onto the website. And then we are going to embark upon the citywide strategic plan process coming up here soon. So that will be that opportunity to get that in there. So as those two separate initiatives get through, we will complete that particular area. In terms of this broadcasting the mission, vision, values to the community, we filmed a video of all our DEI action team members doing mission, vision, values and what that means to them. And so now we are, our communications manager, Mr. Horseman, is editing that video to put together so we can blast that out.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Where will this video be seen?
So we're going to put it out on social media and then embed it into our website on the page where we're talking about DEI. And the initial framework that we've kind of like thought about in the brainstorming session was creating like an Office of the City Manager page, where within that, both myself, Mr. Horseman, John Orchek would reside and can have our information there about what we are doing. So that's where it will live in perpetuity, but then blasting out on social media as well to get it into the hands of the public.
Will it be updated?
We will do different videos, and so you will see different content that will be updated to the City of Sandusky's social media pages, Twitter, Facebook. I don't think we have an Instagram.
YouTube?
Yeah. Oh, yes. This 1.1D, where you're training support leadership with tools to implement citywide department DEI initiatives. We have definitely done some of the research work in terms of benchmarking with other municipalities about this work, working closely with my colleague, Shari Mullen in City of Fremont. They're about a year ahead of us in her job in this role. And so benchmarking with her and other regional and national organizations, public administrators to do that work. And then so looking at any accreditation programs, the connection with this, there are some Fremont won award, I think it was for like one of America's cities or vibrant cities along that lines, which talks about the DEI work as one aspect and component of that they were able to position themselves with. So there are certifications and designations out there that kind of highlights the work that we do. And looking at, let's see here, smooth scroll.
Now, looking at that, 1.1E,
Yes.
is that something that's looking at identifying and training internal employees that are already employed by the city for possible promotion and movement up the ranks within the city administration?
Yes, and that is one component of it in terms of, like, when you look at management and leadership and how do you determine what makes a good manager, a good leader, right? There are certain components when you talk about concepts within DEI, such as unconscious bias and things of that nature, when you're doing performance evaluations. So it will be blended in with our HR development and performance management policies to become part of it as not something separate, as you want to weave it in with what we have as currently and enhancing those particular aspects of it in terms of training and developing talent within to move up within the ranks.
Okay, now let me ask this question. You're saying it's looking at working with and doing this with your HR department. Now my question is the head and leadership of the HR department receiving some type of training to help them better identify and structure programs to help promotion from within the ranks within existing employees, and identifying candidates that can come in and do the job for things. I mean, if this initiative is for that, will those people that are making the decisions also receive training to help identify and better themselves through this program?
Great question. We are working hand in hand with the HR manager with her vast experience and putting that together with some of the tools that we've been able to get. And it's a symbiotic relationship, right? So I learn from her, she learns from me. And then we are looking at, in this budget cycle, as we're establishing the budget for next year, to arm ourselves with more tools so that we can do these things internally and not have to contract out. So it's a cost savings measure and a matter of efficiency. When you're building that, developing and cultivating organizational culture, it's best to try to utilize the talent that you have within the system in order to help perpetuate that.
Well, that's what I mean. It's, to me, with the training and expertise and experience that people have already, should we actually always be contracting out to find, talent?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or should we be able to do it not only from internal sources, but be able to recruit and attract outside talent?
Yeah, and that is that fine balance that you want to have in your organization individuals who are skilled in their particular sets that can do trainings and can lead these types of initiatives within their departments and within the city as a whole. But there will be areas where we may not have enough expertise to really kind of really do a deep dive on things. And so there may become some instances where we would look to contract out for and maybe an expert to come in and do a training on a particular issue that's specific, say, for example, to like law enforcement. Like have no experience in law enforcement. So looking at a particular issue in that particular space would either want to arm some of our own talent that we have here with the training and the knowledge and the skills to be able to facilitate to their peers, or bring someone in who has kind of like subject matter expert in that area.
Mark, who is the HR manager?
Connie Nicholson.
I'm sorry?
Connie Nicholson?
Connie Nicholson?
Yes.
Sorry, Mark.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I like questions. This last one kind of ties in with the training tools of the systems of tracking and reporting the DEI initiatives across organizationally wide. And so our action team is actually doing a demo on Monday with a provider that will give us two things in one. Will we get a system and a dashboard to help us track? So I'm not just doing this on an Excel Gantt chart. And it can be visible to the organization as wide that we can report out and utilize to create our yearly report. But then the big piece of it is that it comes with tools to train in all of the various areas. And when we met initial meeting with them, with Matheson, they were very impressed about how far along we were. Like typically people come to them or they are interacting with individuals who don't know where to go. And we went through our strategic plan and he's just like, I don't know what to say. Like this is you've already done a lot of the thought work on the front end to be intentional and build something. And so now what you would do, this is be giving you the tools to actually do the things that you want to do instead of having to go and research and have to find the tools and dig them up yourself. You have them in one-stop shop. And then it's available to everybody. And it's not just digital training. It's actually giving you the resources to facilitate in-person trainings, or you have the options, we can do it digital if people can't make certain sessions. So it gives us flexibility in that. So we're looking to try to get that into this year's budget, or next year's budget, excuse me. Moving on to the career pillar, where we have made the most progress by far, looking at core behavioral and skill-based competencies, not only to enhance our current job descriptions, but also in performance management as well. So right now, you look maybe at some of our job descriptions that we post are like 6-7 pages long. And so by utilizing these competencies, we're able to kind of encapsulate a lot of this information that's like on all these pages in bullet points that can give you a clear, concise view of what is needed in general competencies to do a specific role. And so oftentimes you find that individuals looking to apply get lost in these 6 to 7 pages of different bullet points and lines and responsibilities, and some of them are overly written, so it makes you think that you can't do this job when in essence it's really not that complicated. And so how do we simplify these job descriptions to make it a little bit easier to kind of like go through them and understand like what is needed to do a particular job in a particular department, instead of getting lost in a bunch of lexicon and language and deep language.
So are you attempting to break down jobs into core efficiencies? Like you said, to break it down in simple terms, to break jobs into core efficiencies so you will know what to look for in candidates and possibly help identify or allow them to explain their proficiencies in a certain field or job that they're seeking to aspire.
Yes, and so, and even if you come from your work history, your background may not be in that specific role, with these competencies, you can connect what you did in your previous job to those competencies in this role. So it makes it not only kind of easier to understand, but then you can kind of broaden the base, because it's like, hold on, I may have not led a team in street maintenance, but I've led teams before. And like those competencies that you're speaking to right here, I can exhibit it in this, give you specific examples of how you exhibit those competencies. And so it also helps to make it easier to score interviews too as well, because you can have one set of metrics to look at when you are looking at different applicants and how they score in these competencies versus, you know, maybe writing comments down and more subjective things. You want to make it as objective as possible in your recruiting policies to root out any potential bias that we all have.
Yeah. Now, what plan do you have to, I won't say manipulate, but I'm going to say open up people to the idea that they do have unconscious biases when looking at candidates and things like that?
Mm-hmm. Some of those tactics are trying to make the process as blind as possible, as long as possible. So when you have resumes, you can eliminate names from resumes. You can do things in terms of selection of candidates based off of, you know, personal networks. You can kind of expand things out and making sure that you get a good slice of candidates from internal referrals, which are sometimes the best way because people already know people. But our networks tend to be kind of close, the people that we are kind of close to, and typically they look like whoever you are, or you share a lot of social identities with them. And so what we want to do is to try to not only still keep some of that benefit, because you do find good people through that way, but to create almost like a blindness going through the selection process and into the interview process, to when you are evaluating the candidate, it's in front of you and you're not bringing some of those things to front. And then the second part of that is actually, you know, training. And the first point in that journey, that DEI journey, the personal journey, is acknowledging we all have bias. It's not something evil or bad. We all have it. How we create them is a natural part of who we are as human beings and how we structure and process information. So once you get that out the way and understand that you have it and you have knowledge of self, then you can kind of work to check your biases in all avenues. These right here, 2.1A, B, and I should be C, are kind of tied into the job description and the hiring team. So it is the hiring team is the DEI action team subcommittee that kind of looks at some of these things that we are creating, right? And giving us a fresh set of eyes on any of the new job descriptions or interview scoring sheets or things that we create.
Where is this hiring team coming from?
We are pulling them from our DEI action team. It's a 9-member team consisting of individuals from a variety of different social identities across the city's workforce that has been instrumental in creating this plan and helping out in these initiatives.
Do you have a listing of those team members?
Yes, myself, Commissioner Harris is part of the action team. We have Aaron Blair, who is in Chief Planner. We have Nicole Growy, who is a CDBG Administrator.
What's
We have
Nicole's last name?
Growy, G-R-O-E.
Growy?
Yeah,
Yeah.
G-R-O-E.
G-R-O-A-T?
Also on the team are Dante Ship from Code Compliance. We have Steve Rucker in Code Compliance, Scott Tom in Building, and Angie, I'm gonna brutalize Angie K, who was former Customer Accounting, but now she's in Code Compliance as well.
Angie.
Yeah.
Her last name is K?
It's Katsopoulos.
Oh, okay. No wonder
Katsopoulos.
you said that. Okay.
SOPOULOS. I used to be partners.
S-O-P-O.
There we go.
Are there any
spell that out.
non-city employees
Thank
on
you.
this
No,
committee?
no, this, the action team is city employees.
That's it? So
'Cause-
if it's inclusive and diverse, why
yeah.
are not some
Well, this is,
from the community involved?
this team is looking at like the actual, policies, procedures, the inner workings of it. And so how the work that this comes out of this, you want it to be from people from inside of the team.
No, I don't understand that.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. Because I'm sure there are people in the community that have business acumen and understand the hiring practices in other arenas that can put their input into the same thing and identify certain factors that you might not come across.
And that was part of our the strategic plan process, in which we looked for external stakeholder input when we looked at how do we want to create these things, and we did that external piece. But when you look at industry wide, how these particular entities work, they are solely internal employees. When you look at in the private sector or in the civic nonprofit sector, when you look at like the action teams from within for the organizations, they consist of team members that are like actually part of the organization. So we will be tasked with not only, making these initiatives come to life, but they are also like advocates and representatives of the organization within it.
Devil's advocate, the organization is what? The city of Sandusky. Okay, residents are part of the organization. They should have some input into what goes on, into who, I want to say, administrates the inner workings of the city. So how can you exclude the public and keep this all, it takes me back to the same old good old boy system. They're going to identify people that they know from within, but there's also people without that live in the community that could fit a certain role. There might be someone that's working at another place that might fit a job that we have, that we might have to go out, just like they do in free agency in baseball and football. We might have to go out and say, hey, look, man, I understand that you're doing this job and you do it well, but you're not happy where you're at. Let me tell you about our position.
That's recruiting, but like for this particular
It
aspect,
involves external process, and it still involves somebody that's not within the framework of the job itself.
I'm going to sprinkle this one on you. The citizens have their voice in their representation and who they elect. And so I would describe this as a internal bureaucratic entity, right? Like that is specifically tailored to deal with the internal bureaucratic processes. And so, say for instance, you have an elected official on there, so you do have a voice, but it is almost by proxy.
Like what?
By proxy.
Yeah, it's by proxy, but a lot of times that voice of the public is not conveyed, because you still have those unconscious biases like, well, they don't know. I'll make the decision. It's kind of like domestic relations and politics. You can assume what your constituency wants, but unless you get out there and find out, or if there's somebody there that can convey that, you still don't have a fair and equitable decision-making process.
I guess.
Good point. the constituency in this particular realm is other city employees.
And I guess that's what I was getting ready to say. I guess the primary role of the team is to look at the city employees as far as equity, inclusion, as far as among city employees. So that's why it's probably made up of city employees. So I really don't take offense to the makeup of this team, but I know the chairperson might. But I think he raised a good point.
It's not that I'm taking offense to the makeup of the team. It's that I'm trying to say, have you looked at all the avenues for inclusion on that team?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like it. These are a great public administration theory questions that I think are a great exercise and helps push us and makes us think outside of what our normal paradigms are. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
It's enough for
And
me.
for what it's worth, my former company was a 7,000 employee company and based out of Chicago, and did something very similar to this with employee DEI groups and was extremely successful in the private sector. So it's nice to see this going on in my city too.
Yeah. So I don't want to take up too much time. I want to breeze through some of these, but as you can see, we are looking at the paper application piece. We can't completely retire that, but what we want to do is try to get is most of the applicants funneled through the online system as possible, because it makes it easier for tracking, making sure you know when you turned in your application, who's applying, where they're flying. We can start to get that data. I had to do that by hand, by going through paper applications in the strategic plan process. I don't want to do that again. We're registered with the City of Sandusky on the Filings Forward Youth Science Portal. So this is about creating a pipeline. This is a long term. Right, and so U-Science is a wonderful technological tool. They do assessments for young people in high school, and they match them to their different competencies and where they're good at and their skills. And then you have employers in your area who match with those particular skill sets. And so we come up as a hit on a particular young person's assessment as a potential employer, so they can then explore the job opportunities that we have. And so this is one of those two tactics. You look short-term and long-term. Short-term is more about what can we do now in terms of recruiting and getting people in who are ready to work, who are eligible to work. But then also you want to create that robust pipeline so that when you have young people coming out of high school into the workforce, they have a clear idea about what type of career opportunities exist within the city, with the City of Sandusky.
Now, what kind of, you talk about the recruiting and that, what kind of plan are you looking at putting in place for retention of that good employee that you find?
Yeah, retention is a combination of multiple factors, making sure that you have an inclusive environment that people feel welcome in, that they can feel a part in, that can identify and see themselves moving up in, and that there's some sort of clear progression. We have two sets of employee workforces, where we have a unionized workforce and we have our administrative workforce. The union side, as you can see in this other one, 2.1C, they have these clear-cut, very well-stated methods of promotion and of pay increases throughout. The administrative side does not have that same clarity. And so what we're doing is trying to look at where we can do inside of individual roles to provide different opportunities for people for advancement and development within that role that would give someone a motivation outside of just pay increases or pay raises to stay with the organization. And the second part is that building that culture where everyone feels welcome, that we feel part, no matter where you come from or what you look like or what your job is that you find solidarity and community within the city structure. And that's, we can't do a lot of the fun things that they do in the private sector with employee affinity groups and things of that nature, but with what we are allowed to do, we can create some of those same programs that build that cohesiveness and that make people want to stay outside of just the pension and the pay and the stability and all those things. You want to add into that the culture of the workforce of the city, of the organization itself, makes me want to stay, makes me want to develop my career here. that part of the pipeline to high demand jobs within the city. You know, that part is that long-term and short-term I kind of spoke to, but deepening the participation in regional government and looking at us and partnering with Ohio Means Jobs, trying to facilitate. One of my goals this year is to try to bring back a TANF, so this is Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, a program, summer work program where you can employ 14 to 18-year-old young people to do work within the city. There's a similar program with my former employer in Cleveland, where they worked in the water department, cleaning fire hydrants, doing rain gardens, doing all these types of projects within the city that has two things. A, you're employing young people who may not in this job market have the opportunity because jobs are more competitive with some older, more experienced employees doing jobs that in the past young people did. And then also when you do projects and you do things within your city, it gives you a different level of ownership. If I've cleaned this park, or I painted this fire hydrant, or I did this street, like I did this, I can point to that. I can tell my friends, don't mess that up, man. Like, we did this. Like, this is us. And so there's kind of two sides. And then third, if you implement working with a nonprofit partner, do some job readiness training for them. So maybe one day they're doing their resume writing, or they're doing their mock interviews on one day. That's part of that. So they're getting paid to do these things. So this is a program that I've connected with Ohio Means Jobs, and they are very excited for the possibility that we could bring something like this back here to this area in terms of summer jobs program for young people. We're working, we got the job postings going through our online portal, so I love that we checked that one off the list. And we're looking at pay equity in terms of the city on the non-unionized side, because it's just not that same equitable structure that exists within the unionized side. And so some of these other initiatives you can see, they don't start until farther off in the year. You know, this gray line, let me scale back a little bit so you can see. The initiatives haven't started yet, that gray shaded area, but we are working well on track to get those things in line as we knock out some of these lower things. And this last one right here I want to kind of talk about is this value share. So we have our DEI values that we put forth. And what we've done is started to have a kind of like a roundtable session with our city cabinet members talking about these values. What do they mean to them, and how do they align with their work and their job? Values such as collaboration, safety, psychological safety, innovation, and the 9 listing of values that we had in our program. Like, how do those kind of relate? And the conversations I feel have been very impactful. People are really starting to reflect and look at not only how these values resonate in their lives, but how do they show up in their work that they do. And so when you start to think about these things and it becomes top of mind, it's more behavioral. You start to think about, like, hey, I'm a public servant, I'm in service. So how do I serve, right? And kind of walking through that, and it helps you think about all the ways and the good things that you do, and it kind of inspires you to do better. So I'm really excited about those particular things.
So you say it's 100%, so you do have a mission statement for that team?
Oh, yeah. Mission, vision, values, we did that in the strategic plan.
Okay.
And so now we're in the 5th week of this. So we got it going, we have the process, and it's good.
Can you read the mission statement?
Yes, why certainly. Let me pull it up here. Excuse me while my PowerPoint closes and I have to open it.
I can wait till you get done with this, and then you can pull it up later if I don't want to throw you off track.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Like, give me an opportunity to share the mission, vision, and values. I'm all for it. Just got to make sure I find the right one. There it is. Doom. So the vision of the DEI action team is that we are a diverse and inclusive organization. We treat each other equitably and with respect, creating an environment where no voices are silenced and all of us can thrive. And the mission statement of the DEI action team connects the City of Sandusky's employees through the diverse perspectives and lived experiences of its residents, vendors, and business community. The DEI Action Team makes diversity, equity, and inclusion integral in our organizational structure, policies, and program delivery. We identify and remove barriers, creating an environment where all people can find representation and solidarity. We recruit, retain, and develop a diverse, high-performing workforce, reflecting the community that we serve, and we create a best-in-class professional community, providing opportunities for company of all sizes. And then we have our values. Our core values are collaboration, innovation, and service. Our foundational values are safety, understanding, and connection. And our barrier removal values are vulnerability, risk-taking, and stewardship.
And in the report that you guys sent before, that's in that report as well, isn't it?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Correct. Boom. And that's career. So community is coming along. This one is looking more how do we interact with the public? So looking at those methods of communication, the visual maps, some of these, as you can see, these
Well, you
initiatives.
skipped something that I was looking at, a 2 go down again, 2.2, it's a 2 point something. No, you keep going the other way, Marcus.
Go back to that one?
Yeah,
Okay.
you know, you establish, here, 2.3,
Yes.
establish training, you get your cursor off of that. Training point people
Mm-hmm.
in department divisions, ensure hires have a clear expectation of job responsibility. Is this gonna be something similar to a Six Sigma program?
Similar, because you're, looking at lean processes in that kind of like framework. But what you want to do is, say for instance, you have someone coming into community development, right? And so you partner that individual with a learning partner, and as they may have different roles. Like Aaron may be the chief planner, and say we have Colleen who's newer in there, who's neighborhood development officer, but helping her navigate not only the structures of community development and then the city as a whole.
But you understand what I'm saying, as far as the Six Sigma program. Each employee, as they move along through their job requirements and functions, documents. So basically, if you were in a position and Blake walked in, you would have almost a training manual right there, where Blake could step in, look at what's going on, open the manual, find that position, and do your job without us going through a big lapse or loss of leadership or efficiency.
Mm-hmm. And we have like SOPs for a lot of different departments and roles, so those operating procedures that can help kind of like fill that gap in that role, but nothing specifically that I can draw on. And I don't know if you in the department have like a specific like manuals in that sense.
We have a specific training program, but I mean, there's still not complete redundancy because it takes multiple hours of training before we send an officer out. by
Right,
his or
and
herself.
with Six Sigma, as in anything else, it's adjustable as you move along. It's
Correct.
flexible. I mean, certain things happen that say, hey, we got to change this because this happened. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
But
definitely.
we have that in place
Mhm.
in our field training.
I want to tap into my green belt status. You mentioned Six Sigma. I was like, oh, yes. To that community, this is about deepening those relationships with residents and stakeholders, finding alternate ways to interact with the public other than just like legal ads, exploring standard way of reporting when public meetings are occurring. So we're often getting feedback about like people don't know when things are happening, right? And so what that means is that we need to try to do a better job at getting information in the places that people are actually operating and doing on their day-to-day life, and then also tailoring those messages that they resonate with them and they can actually just see it. Is it posting it on our website, is that the best way to get the word out that something is happening, or can we do more? Because posting it on the website is compliance. We have to notify people of the public meetings and things of that nature. But can you go farther than that in order to get more participation and more awareness that things are happening so people aren't blindsided, like, oh, I didn't know that was happening, right? So that's kind of what a lot of these different initiatives are about. And this community one will come along as we get some of these the culture and the career pillars like down. As you can see, a lot of them are offset. But this one right here, connecting with organizations who are already culturally tied to target communities or providing services to target population, this is something that has been ongoing and that we want to make more robust. And so when you're looking at getting information out, working with those trusted partners in the community that actually speak and operate within those spaces can help do the work and amplify and magnify what we got going on. So that's that part, just a brief update of the DEI action. Bink.
Now,
Back to
do you
Ken.
have this available in a printout?
I can print that out for you like that, but it's a Gantt chart, so it does change. It doesn't stay the same.
Well, it's
As
in
we keep-
flux, I understand
every
that.
meeting, we accomplish a new goal.
I understand that,
That's why I
but,
want a platform that people can log into and see.
but
like,
if
oh,
I
progress.
have a baseline, I can relate that to what changes you make and whether or not they are truly, in my opinion, beneficial or non-beneficial for the community.
True story.
This is good, Marcus. Glad you see you're earning your money.
Spoken like a true uncle, right?
Yep.
Be your own people. All right, so the next item, I did get some information from,
Go ahead.
from Chief
Is
D'Amico that I
D'Amico
wanted to
here?
share. No, he's out today, but he wanted to share with you all, these were the flyers that he had put out for the hiring of the full-time firefighters. The testing period is still active, goes until October 3rd. Connected with some staff and said that an individual would need to get that test done before that date to be eligible. So it has the requirements, and he said these flyers were passed out and posted at the following schools that offer fire EMS programs: so Cuyahoga Community College, Lorraine Community College, EHOVE, Akron U, Hocking College, Columbus State, and the Ohio Fire Academy. And then flyers and mailers with letters asking for the flyer to be posted were hand-delivered to these Sandusky institutions. So you have the high school, the adult education, and Sandusky's Global Internship Program, Grace Episcopal Church, St. Stephen's, Church of the Nazarene, Emmanuel Temple, Father's Heart Church, Lighthouse Baptist Church, Trinity United Methodist Church, Second Baptist Church, New Jerusalem Baptist Church, Ebenezer Baptist Church, Holy Angels, St. Mary's, St. Pete's, and Paul Catholic Churches, the Eagles Nest Church, Seventh-day Adventist Church, the First Presbyterian Church, the Center for Cultural Awareness, We Daycare, Second Baptist Church, and First Faith Community Church, and Trinity Lutheran Church. So Chief has definitely
Done his job.
got out there and connected with organizations in the community to get the word out that they have, I think it's 3 slots for firefighters that are available, and with the information about testing. So that's what he
Tell him
wanted.
good job, because I saw this at multiple places, and I can't even remember all the places I saw it when it first came out, so you got the word out.
Yeah.
Definitely work out. Job well
Definitely.
done.
Yep. Okay, Chief Oliver.
We're probably going to be in the process of forming another eligibility list as well. We're hiring one more full-time. We have some ongoing negotiations with Cedar Point for policing services over there that are probably coming to fruition pretty soon, which will cause us to go look for more candidates. Back to your points, Chairperson, you were talking about free agency and different things. That's kind of what's going on in law enforcement. Whoever has the best department, the best opportunity, the best pay. We aggressively pursued lateral transfers here in the city of Sandusky that was never available to us before. So with this next recruitment, we're gonna try to gain some more lateral transfers too. And for us, that's a great thing in law enforcement, because you're gonna bring in an experienced officer who's got training behind him or her, and some more senior officers, and that opportunity hasn't been there before. We have have a success story that our recruitment, we've tried very, very hard to identify community candidates from our community. We attempt to be as diverse as we can as a police department. We want to represent our community. We had a local candidate who came forward. He's a Sandusky High School graduate. He was working at Ventura. All he ever wanted to do was be a police officer. He's in his early 30s now. So we interviewed DeMar Adcock. We hired him. We brought him in as a non-commissioned police officer, and now we're paying for his tuition to go to the police academy. So we've tried that. We're going to continue to keep trying that, but we're very pleased and we're excited to have DeMar on board. To implicit bias, since you were talking about that, that's mandated training at our police department. We train to combat it. We train in person. We've had in-person training on it. We also have online training on it. Recently, though, Ohio governor, through his continued professional training for all law enforcement in the state of Ohio, also mandated 4 hours of procedural justice, which ties back into some unconscious bias training that all of our officers completed that for this year, too. So it's an ongoing effort at the Sandusky Police Department.
One thing I'd like to commend your force. I look around as I drive around the community, and I notice that your officers are interacting more and more with the people around in a friendly manner. And I'd like to commend your department on that, because it's opening up a sense of ease with the community, with the department and the officers involved. But again, I'd like to commend you on that and the push you're making to make your officers more interactive with the community in a social manner.
Well,
Not just putting their hand on their gun and saying what you're doing, but, just, hey, like a cup of coffee, things like that.
That's awesome to hear. I mean, we make a concerted effort every day to be out in the community and to be one with the community. And honestly, we wouldn't succeed if it wasn't for the support of our community, and our officers know that. We did recently get an award from the state of Ohio for our community policing initiatives, too, so we're very proud of that.
Well, I watched. You got my award.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Chief, just a couple questions, if I may. When you talk about the lateral transfers from like other departments, or what is that?
Yeah, our lateral transfers, so going back to when I was at the sheriff's office, lateral transfers started up probably about 5-6 years ago in law enforcement, and it was just another recruiting tool. Couldn't find good candidates. And what is it going to take to get good candidates? A lot of it comes down to pay. A lot of it comes down to location and those out there. But we always had hiring stipulations. So here, civil service rules, you had to take the eligibility test. You had to have this many requirements. But for instance, we had a couple of officers come from different police agencies who still had to go through that entry-level eligibility list, and then they're starting at the bottom of the ladder. So when you accept lateral transfers, basically your requirements are you have to have 2 years continuous full-time service, law enforcement service. Some places have that. In the state of Ohio, you have to have Ohio certifications. Ours is open to certification from any state in the United States. So basically, we could and we will try to promote this all over the place. And maybe you pull somebody from Nevada, maybe you pull somebody from Columbus. Recently, Columbus police, they're down probably 200-300 officers. They're recruiting from California, Arizona, Montana. It's lateral transfer, so they'll give them a signing bonus, and they'll bring them in at a higher rate of pay than just your normal, just out of the academy, just certified officer. Okay. Back to the chairperson's point, too, because he was talking about retention. This is all plays into our recruitment and retention of the police department. We applied for a grant through the state of Ohio through OCJS funds, and we were awarded $235,000. And with that, that's all retention bonuses for all our current officers that we have on the force. And then we got some more money in that $230,000 to recruit officers. So every full-time officer we have through this grant this year will get a retention bonus of $5,000. It'll be broke up twice. Hopefully we'll get the money pretty soon, according to the documents I've seen lately. So each officer will get a check for probably $3,000 and another check for $2,000 at the end of the year. And that's just our way of saying thank you for providing the services to Sandusky and continuing your employment here. The best part, that's a great part. Another very great part for us is we can recruit people and give them a sign-on bonus. And this has taken place all throughout the country for law enforcement. There's places, I just saw a posting for a job in Alaska where there's a $20,000 sign-on bonus. Now, we can't afford that, but that's how dire it is for law enforcement. So with this grant that we were awarded through the state, we're going to give $2,500 recruitment bonus for those officers. Now, they have to hit certain guide marks. They pass your FTO, 6 months here, complete your probationary year with us, and then it pays it all out. And it's bringing us very good candidates, and we're going to aggressively continue to try to recruit in our community. And I'd love to bring on another Sandusky High grad. I mean, it's a goal, so that's where we're at.
Okay, my last question, Chief, for you, for Cedar Point, how is that really going to affect us? Because now the Sandusky Police Force is going to be in charge of all the policing over at Cedar Point. Can you explain that to us? And
Correct.
how's that going to affect as far as manpower as well?
Well, we kind of already deal with anything criminal-wise at Cedar Point. We already have an officer there that they pay for. So when they're open, there's a Sandusky Police Department officer over there.
Okay.
Going forward, the Cedar Point Police Department, they're owned by their parent company, and they're really like the last amusement park that they have that has their own dedicated police department. They're transitioning away from that. They're going to have their security staff just like they do at their other parks. With us, we were never going to take this on if this wasn't going to get us to a point where it didn't cost us officers in the city going over to the park. So that was first conversation I had when this discussion had. We met with the city manager, the assistant city manager, and I said, we're here to help, but we're not going to pull from our city to go over and deal with Cedar Point.
Okay.
They understand that entirely. And that's not what they're looking for. What they want from us and what they're going to pay for to the city of Sandusky, ultimately it's going to be up to the commissioners. Commissioner Harris will be a part of that, but they want to enter into a contract where they fund police officers for us. So in addition to what we have now where we're at full staff, we're going to create jobs through this position with Cedar Point, have a couple of officers, depending on when it's all on paper. Our look will be like right now we have one officer, we may have two. They're going to have their security contingent. They're going to deal with all the inner workings of the park. If something criminal occurs, that's when our police officers will take care of that, just like we would anywhere else in the city, and move forward. It will not draw from our staff on our current numbers and our shifts over there. This will be in addition to what we currently have.
Now, my question with those
welcome.
officers is, what happens when the park closes? Are those officers going to be laid off, or are they going to be absorbed
They're
into
right
the city?
back working for us in the city.
So we'll be essentially at a surplus, if you would, during the off-season.
And during the closed hours of the park.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to have shift numbers that we probably haven't seen in the
That's
city
what
of
I was going to
Sandusky.
say, police is not overstaffed.
Yeah. This will be the most officers we've probably had here before my time, but I'd say in at least 10 years. And again, not paid for by the general fund. This is.
Cedar Point footing the bill.
Yeah. Now we just have to find
the
those
people.
officers. There you go. Yeah.
61, am I too old? 61?
There you go. Here, I'll bring you on as a reserve. We get you out there with another person.
That's you, I'm just kidding. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you. Chief Oliver, any old business that we need to discuss?
I do not believe so.
New business.
All right, I have this item as far as courageous conversation. So looking into 2023, I would like to partner with the CRC as we go kind of from inside to outside and try to get into the community, into their spaces, and have like in-depth, real courageous conversations, talking about tough issues, talking about, listening and hearing and understanding what the community has to say about these issues. This won't be a discussion that is led or driven by us as city employees. What we want is honest, open feedback, and if it may be positive, it may be negative, but that's their truth, and we want to be able to hear that. Kind of working with my colleague out in Fremont, she's been successful at this particular initiative, and sometimes the meeting places are a little bit unorthodox, but they are where people are. right? And so you need to get outside the four walls of City Hall and get out there to really kind of connect with people so they can feel comfortable in speaking their truth to you and not have any reservations about that. So I will be reaching out to you all individually when we get these scheduled in 2023 to take part of and help in this effort in terms of getting the word out and getting people there. And then this came very last minute today, right before, but the Recreation Department is looking to do something in terms of helping with mental health, not only for young people, but all community members over at the Sandusky Rec Center at Mills. And what they were looking to do is have a open way Sandusky Recreation Yoga Instructor training course. And so what the Recreation Department is going to do, their goals is to create a staff of yoga and mindfulness teachers at the city Sandusky Recreation Center who can offer targeted programming to support local community and support the city's goal of providing a future dedicated space for movement and mindfulness practices at Sandusky Rec. So the course will lead to a open way yoga teacher, a yogi or a yogini, 200-hour training, and they will have a solid personal practice and practical teaching experience that draws from their personal practice. So what they're looking to do is create yoga instructors and help train them up from the city's work population and residents. So they're opening this up to city residents. So we're looking for not two sides, maybe getting the word on about this, but then also any possible fundraising ideas or mechanisms that we can help. The community development said the cost of this will be probably $2,000 per person, and they want a minimum of 5 participants to go through this program.
So you're looking for existing yoga instructors?
No, we got that part. We want to create yoga instructors. And not only is this giving them the opportunity to practice their craft once they're done, they could do it with Sandusky Rec, but this is for if you want to go off into be an entrepreneur and open up their own studio, this certification allows them to do so. And so speaking to the rec folks, they said they want to try to break the stigma that yoga is like either something for women or for affluent people. Like this is a practice of yoga, and the practice of mindfulness is open to all people. And so to break down the stigma and the thought, they were really looking for some men to get involved in it because it's typically something that guys don't do. But it's going to be open to all the residents of Sandusky. So they wanted me to share that with this group, with this body. So if you have any ideas or thoughts about, things that we can do to, or opportunities that they can pursue, either the funding side or recruiting side, I can definitely field those and get them to the Recreation Department.
Mr. Chair. This is to Marcus. I think it's worth noting, speaking of economic equity and inclusion, the Minority Business Empowerment Team Award that was just received.
Yes.
All right, I've got I got a little cheat sheet here, so I can just read it verbatim. So the Minority Business Empowerment Team, I think we found out, just a day or two ago?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we won an international award back on the 20th. Embet took home the Silver Award in Economic Equity and Inclusion for the 2022 Excellence in Economic Development Awards from the International Economic Development Council. The award was presented at the 2022 IEDC Annual Conference in Oklahoma. IEDC's Excellence in Leadership in Economic Development Awards recognize the world's best economic development programs, partnerships, marketing materials, and influential leaders. These 25 awards honor organizations and individuals for their efforts in creating positive change in urban, suburban, and rural communities. Awards are judged by a diverse panel of economic and community developers from around the world. IEDC received over 500 submissions from the United States and 4 additional countries. So I think, needless to say, I think we might be trending in the right direction and we might be on to something. So certainly something to be proud of, and that I think really every and anyone who supports us and continues to back our efforts, so.
Yeah, and some news on that same line, I heard back, we had a Lift Local event. So Lift Local is a program from Huntington Bank that focuses in on minority, veteran, and women-owned businesses, or in businesses that exist in low to moderate income census tracts. And they came here and they did a presentation of their program to Embed's audience and Sandusky entrepreneurs or area entrepreneurs. And proud to say that the feedback from the Huntington folks, they've done these things from Cleveland all the way up to Wisconsin, and this was the largest crowd that they had by far. And from that, they've had 3 entrepreneurs who have taken advantage of the program and that are Huntington customers and getting capital to expand and enhance their businesses. And so like it's one thing, like we get recognized, but then like if you can see those tangible efforts that we put into these events and kind of manifesting in these businesses getting access to capital where they may not have had that before, I think is super encouraging for us to keep doing what we're doing.
For sure.
Great job.
Yes. Any other new business? Well, with that being said, it's been a pleasure serving as your chair for the limited meetings that we do have. I'll be going next week, probably get a knee replacement. But I'm glad to see Sandusky's moving in the right direction. And, if committees like this do anything to help us and prod us along, then it's well worth it. I enjoy hearing from Chief Oliver. I like the things the police department, I really do, that the police department is doing in the city. I don't have much contact with Chief Tobacco, with the fire department. Of course, I don't want to see the fire department. But
Neither do I.
I try to restrict my 911 calls.
Yeah.
And, but guys, it's been a pleasure. And unless there's any other new business, I'd like a motion for adjournment. It's 5:00.
So
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?